So thanks, Jason, for joining my videos for the first time. I appreciate it. I've known Jason for a while, I think. And yeah, and so this is part of my happiness course. Today, the section is dealing generally with anxiety. Do check out the pinned comment where I put more information about 7 ways of dealing with anxiety. And the question I want to pose in this mini happiness class is, why is life so hard? And I'm going to put forward the idea that life shouldn't be hard, but we make it hard. And the short reason why, and this is particularly a Western phenomena, I think, is that in the West we literally run the opposite direction of happiness, okay, by being selfish, which makes life difficult. So what do I mean by that? So Viktor Frankl, I think maybe we've talked about him before. Have you ever heard of the name?
I've read some of his stuff.
So, psychologist, he explained that happiness comes from living for others. Basically, he talks about meaning, and when he talks about meaning, it means living for others, living for something bigger than yourself. And there are lots of experiments that demonstrate that to be happier, you should spend on other people. So there's a great TED talk. I would also put a link to it. So how to buy happiness, and he talks about buying coffee for other people and things like that. So in short, what I'm saying is life, and as I should point out, all my inspiration is from Islam. We don't have to be a Muslim to accept. You don't have to be a Muslim to follow these kind of this piece of wisdom, I would call it. And so the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, paradise, and that's in this life and the next, is for the generous. So basically paradise or happiness is for people who are generous, which is the opposite of where the culture in the West tells us to do. Culture in the West is about individualism, taking care of number one, buying lots of expensive presents and things for yourself, essentially leading to loneliness and things like that. What are your thoughts so far on what I've said?
I'm not sure if culture really. There are mixed messages in culture. Yeah, there is messages from advertisers who want to sell us things. But there is I think a general understanding that happiness comes from living in a community. Yeah,
So I would say that people don't understand that, because that's why loneliness is the biggest killer in London. People don't make the effort. So I am being quite black and white and harsh,
Okay.
but I think that's the general trend, and I've made huge amounts of efforts to get people together in my local area and so many other places. I've been in London my whole life. I think it's okay. And I'm quite sure that people are not as social as they should be.
That's understandable. People, you kind of have to put in effort to be social, and there's going to be other things that are, being social in one way, you're going to take one opportunity and then miss out on another one. That's part of the reason I come here, for the social interaction.
That's cool. And so, yeah, it's great that there are people who make the effort like yourself. I find you interesting because you kind of listen to other people and take part in different kinds of conversations from what I've seen. So that's good. So there are people who are sort of the exception. People who come here are generally quite the exception. You wouldn't do what you have in Speaker's Corner on your normal street, because normally people on the streets tend to avoid all sorts of conversation. So maybe I'm getting a little bit out of kind of, let's say, the direction of the conversation. So what do you think about the idea of the importance of generosity, and do you think being generous makes you more happy, or is that just a myth?
I think it seems to ring true to me. It seems to me that generosity is a key part of maintaining functional human relationships. And I think having good relationships, having proper friends, that's an essential part of life.
I agree. So by giving for others, there's a lot of things that happen. First of all, if you're a selfish person, and this is very common surprisingly in romantic relationships, okay, because the idea of romantic relationships hidden in there is this idea that you love somebody because they deeply love you back, okay, and you're perfect for each other and you expect something back, and that's why those kind of relations fall apart, because when that initial lust falls away, the selfishness remains, and you find you start looking for something else that will give you that same attention. It's very selfish, you know. And I'll say that's I think a common. Yeah, I'm trying to. So when you're very giving in your relationship, people want to be more with you, and also when you're very giving in the relationship, you learn that you don't depend so much on things. Like, say if I bought you a coffee, a lot of people who don't have that habit of giving, they think that their money will run out, and I see this I've seen this increasing of richer people. They're the ones, like even a homeless person told me that it's mainly the poorer people who give money, right, to him, or give things to him. And I've also seen let's say in some families, as they got richer, they became more stingy, because you think that you depend on that money. And the reason I'm bringing that up is because when I do these happiness shows, I don't make videos just for the sake of it. I truly want to help people, and I can see that people might have some hesitation in giving away because when they look on the adverts, they don't see that as the way to happiness. When you watch an advert, you're told essentially, buy some stuff and then you'll be happier. Get more stuff for yourself, then you'll be happy. You know?
Yeah.
That's the point of an advert, I suppose. Yeah.
To create in you a felt need for something that they can supply you with and satisfy.
Right. Yeah. Well, thank you very much. I hope people really. What I hope is to put some more ideas out there that will make life easier. Because I think, in a way, you're not really disagreeing on anything because it seems to make sense. And I wish this was a more common feeling between people, so that they would be happier, because it's not that difficult to be happy. If you're giving away, then that means you're not dependent on things, you're not constantly chasing things, and then you'll be relaxed and happier. Any last thoughts?
Ideally, I think people are hesitant to be generous because, as you say, they think they run out of money. They think if they're known for giving away money, people will keep coming back and asking for more.
So people can be scared that if you're generous. So I'm generous, I would say. I mean, I'm always taking people out for coffee and things like that. But I don't ever get the impression that people start tapping me on the shoulder. Can you get me a coffee this week? I wouldn't even mind actually. But do you know what I mean?
That never happens.
Yeah, it doesn't really happen. I don't think it's a particular problem, and because I'm not reliant on stuff, and I'm increasingly less reliant on stuff in my life, I'm becoming more free, I would say. I'm not concerned about that, you know. If people ask me for stuff, I might give it to them. I'm not really worried about people asking me for stuff. It's not the end of the world. If I can give something to them or whatever, then I will. Actually, what I'm doing here is an act of generosity, I would say, because I don't need to make a YouTube channel. I don't really care about people's opinions and for my self-validation. It's to help people, and I suppose that's another important point, which is generosity doesn't have to be money. It's just giving time to people, listening to people, understanding people's suffering, understanding people's joys, sharing with them, and stuff like that.
That makes sense, but eventually we all run out of time.
Yeah, and so I would say it's how you spend your time. So you can run out of time being selfish, which is largely a lot of what people do. And I'm being very black and white. I'm not trying to be tough on people, but this is the sort of reality that we have to kind of you have to realize your problem before you can solve it. So when I've done lots of invited lots of people for tea parties on my street, right, and very few people came, not realizing that it was their duty to try to be part of the community and start building connections between people, because that's a massive problem in London. Loneliness is a massive problem, right? And loneliness must be a problem only because people are selfish with their time. Now, we actually do have a lot of time. It's just how we spend it. So we can spend it by ourselves watching Netflix, or we can spend it talking to other people. But the thing about Netflix and movies, you get like a bit of an adrenaline and a bit of a kick watching an action movie or whatever, a well-composed movie which took millions of pounds to make, to give you a bit of a high in 1 hour. But it doesn't feel as exciting as maybe a calm conversation, learning and asking about how you're doing. When you ask how you're doing, really ask how you're doing and find out what's happening in your life and all that kind of stuff, rather than a quick WhatsApp conversation, which is a summary conversation, which is not a real conversation. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah. Okay, well, I'll kind of end it there. Thank you very much. Thanks for your time. Appreciate it.